But now we're going to go into some good news because, like I said, seeing the videos and the images from the protest yesterday in DC, it made me feel all kind of warm fuzzies and tingly inside. It made me feel like, you know, I got teary-eyed, but it was a happy tear. You know, you ever get the happy tear, right? You know, it was the happy teary-eye because what I saw yesterday, what that said to me is that the American people are no longer buying mainstream media narratives, and that the American people actually internationally, this was all over the world yesterday, that the majority of people are not with you, Joe Biden. They're not with you, Netanyahu. People see the writing on the wall. Now, I first want to start to what happened to the ports in Oakland, because this is huge. And I don't know if everybody has seen this. Protesters at the port of Oakland are blocking a U.S. ship that will be sending military weapons to Israel. So this happened first. So you'll see this here. You see this? No U.S. military aid to Israel. So they showed up to block the ships to send weapons to Israel. Now, some of you are wondering, was it effective? Let's get into that. Critical Resistance goes on to say police have now arrived. So the police started to show up. We all know how that goes. Look at this. The police are trying to break through a line of peaceful protesters.
Say no! Hey! Say no! Say no! Say no! Say no! Children! You're fucking killing children! You fucking coward! You fucking coward! Cowards! 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 Fuck you! Fuck you!
What I noticed, this officer right here, he was just like, you know what, man? You see the one officer trying to get through the fence. This police officer over here is just like, look, bruh, I'm out here because this is part of my job and you guys call me out here to do what I need to do. But I'm honestly starting to sit back and wonder, I don't know if the paycheck worth all this, bud. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be trying to push through a fence, man. So I'm just going to hang back. I'm just going to hang back. So you'll see. So that happened. But then, wait for it. Some protesters are sitting in while others have locked themselves to the ship. So you'll see here, these are some of the protesters that actually locked themselves to the ship. This is crazy, huh? This is wild. You have to look in a little close. That's as close as I can make it. But right there, some of them locked themselves into the ship. And then let's go on. This part is very telling. We're hearing that this protest is causing crew members on board to have doubts about whether they should continue. Here's a post from someone on the ship. Look at this. I'm just a contractor. This feels terrible. So you see this? Also, remember what I said about those jobs that Joe Biden's talking about? So you see, one of the contractor crew posted that. Okay, let's go on. And then you'll see here, because of protesters' relentless determination, they retied the lines and re-docked the ship. You see this, guys? And they didn't even have, I wouldn't even say there were 100 people out there. But look at this. They had to redock the ship. Watch. Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. So that is how it all started. Then we get to the protest in DC. Over 300,000 people were estimated to have been there. I have not seen numbers like this. And not in my adult life, I have not seen numbers like this. And even Simon Atiba said, breaking, the current pro-Palestine rally in DC, the capital of the US, is one of the largest since 2020 after George Floyd's death and before the presidential election that year. Photo credit to Call Me Anton. Look at this, guys. Look at all these people. No, this isn't Woodstock. This is not a Rage Against the Machine concert. These are all the people who showed up. And this isn't even all of them, because there's another side, I'll show you that in a second, that showed up in support of the Palestinian people. And it has now been confirmed that the numbers of people in DC is actually more than the George Floyd protest. I want to show you just how many people were there. Answer Coalition, they're one of the groups that sponsored this. It said today the people made history. 300,000 marched in DC to demand an end to Biden and Israel's genocide against Gaza and demand freedom for Palestine. Look at this here. Watch the people move. So you can see, I'll pause for a second. There are people all the way back here. Look at all those people. They look like little ants marching, right? We're throwing some Dave Matthews. Ants are marching. So many people. So they sped this up so that it would go faster, just FYI. But look at all these people. Woo! It's a beautiful thing. A beautiful sight. And it's like the people just kept coming and coming. People from all across the country, guys. All across the country. Love it. Love it. Love it. It warms my heart to see these things happen. Now, so many people were speakers there. I saw part of the protest on Breakthrough News. They live streamed this event. Even rapper Macklemore spoke at the event. I'm not kidding. Let me show you. This is Simon Atiba. See it. Rapper, singer Macklemore takes the stage at the pro-Palestine rally in Washington, D.C. Says for the past 3 weeks, he was told to be quiet and do his research. Well, let's hear what Macklemore has to say now.
We have Macklemore on deck. Make some noise for him.
Wait, what?
Peace, everybody. You know, first and foremost, this is absolutely beautiful to observe today. I didn't expect to be on a microphone, but There are thousands of people here that are more qualified to speak on the issue of a free Palestine than myself. But I will say this. They told me to be quiet. They told me to do my research, to go back, that it's too complex to say something, right? To be silent in this moment. In the last 3 weeks, I've gone back and I've done some research, and I'm teachable. I don't know enough, but I know enough that this is a genocide.
Well said. So Mr. Thrift Shop himself, and to quote Thrift Shop, this is fucking awesome. But there's more. Chairman Amali Yeshitela from the Uhuru movement was also there present. So there was a black person march on DC in support of Palestine as well. Like, there were so many different organizations that came together for this cause. And I want you to hear what Chairman Amali Yeshitela had to say about what's happening to the Palestinian people and the connection to the black struggle. Listen to this.
And the fact of the matter is, they're in a state of desperation because we are winning. We will never retreat. We are not going back. We are not going back to them old-timey days that they used to be able to feel comfortable because all the slaves were calm on the plantation. There is no calm now. And let me tell you, it's not enough to say peace, because Biden wants peace. Netanyahu wants peace. All of them want peace. All they want is the oppressed people to stop fighting. That's the kind of peace they want. They want peace on the plantation.
Pause. That part right there. They want the oppressed people to stop fighting. They want peace on the plantation. Think about that, guys. How dare you? How dare you stay in the prison that we built for you and be happy? Let me let him continue. That part is very important.
On the plantation, they want imperialist peace, but the people are determined to be free, and we are riding on that train of freedom right now. Adelante siempre, Uhuru. And the fact of the matter is, they're in a state of
awesomeness. There's so much more I have to show you guys. There's so many videos, but this one as well from Andre at the White House moments ago. 100,000 people. This is before it was 300,000. This was at the beginning. 100,000 people chanting Genocide Joe and Biden, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. This one here.
Biden, you can't hide. Biden, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. We charge you with genocide. Genocide Joe. Genocide Joe. Genocide Joe. Genocide Joe. Biden, you can't hide.
I'm telling you, the people, and by the way, for people who were saying in the beginning, oh, it's just those college students, what do they know? No. It's not just the college students. Now, to that point, Danny Haifong, you got to love Danny. Danny hit it right on the nail. Danny said, Blinken lied, 10,000 Palestinians died. And you can swap out Blinken with Biden, or you can put both of their names in this as well, because, you know, 10,000 people. And what's interesting is that even some of Joe Biden's own staffers were at the protests, guys. His own staffers. Look at this. Thank you, The Independent. There is a contingent of Biden staffers protesting here at the demonstration in DC. The crowd stretches from the Freedom Plaza to the Capitol and beyond. These are his people.
Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now.
You guys see it? Biden, your staff demands a ceasefire. His own staff members. His own staffers.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
You guys are staffers?
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire
You know, there was an article recently. I was going to try to read it today, but it's really long, and I think I'm going to have to talk about that on Tuesday. Even one of Ro Khanna's staffers resigned because Ro Khanna wouldn't call for a ceasefire. And there's a long article about it in New York Magazine. I think I'll discuss that on Tuesday. But this particular issue right here, Biden wasn't doing well in the polls before this, but he's also not doing well after this, obviously, after October 7th. But this is causing him to lose votes and support from the Muslim community. Listen to this. So Professor Anthony Zinkas actually clipped this. I'm so glad he saw this. My message to President Biden is, I voted for you and I regret it. Listen to what this woman says.
My message to President Biden is, I voted for you and I regret it.
Will you vote for him in 2024?
Absolutely not. My message to President Biden is, I voted for you and I regret it.
Will you vote for him in 2024?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. There's more. There's more. So all the protests and the push, all the people out in the streets, like this is international, ladies and gentlemen. It has brought the attention to, obviously, Blinken. So Blinken had to speak out. I want you to hear what he had to say. There's two clips I have of him. This is the one about a two-state solution. You guys know how I feel about a two-state solution. I think there's too many settlements for that to happen today. So I think a one-state solution is the more feasible option. But listen, he wasn't even talking about, they weren't even talking about it. Not even talking about, listen to what he says here.
The United States continues to believe that the sole viable path is a two-state solution, with Israelis and Palestinians each exercising their legitimate right to live in a state of their own, with equal measures, security and freedom of opportunity and dignity. And we discussed some of the meaningful and practical steps that we might take to help advance that proposition, to get us there. The United States and our partners will have different views on how best to advance or achieve these steps. But we all recognize that we cannot go back to the status quo.
You heard that? We can't go back to the status quo.
And we all understand that we not only have an interest, but a responsibility to do everything we can to chart a better path forward together. The United States.
Okay. Now, that's the first one. I want to go to the second clip from him. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. When he talks about what is happening to the children. Again, like I'm telling you guys, had it not been for the protests, you wouldn't even hear Anthony Blinken saying this. Listen to this.
We need to do more to protect Palestinian civilians. We've been clear that as Israel conducts its campaign to defeat Hamas, how it does so matters. It matters because it's the right and lawful thing to do. It matters because failure to do so plays into the hands of Hamas and other terror groups. There will be no partners for peace if they're consumed by humanitarian catastrophe and alienated by any perceived indifference to their plight.
I want to pause here for a second, because is it just me, or does Anthony Blinken look nervous to you? Oh, he look a little nervous.
This is what binds us as human beings. I've seen images too of Palestinian children, young boys and girls, pulled from the wreckage of buildings. When I see that, when I look into their eyes through the TV screen, I see my own children. How can we not? Hamas doesn't care 1 second or 1 iota for the welfare, for the well-being of the Palestinian people.
I'm going to go ahead and fix that for him. The state of Israel doesn't care about the welfare for the Palestinian people. And I don't mean Jewish people, because I'm going to show you a video here in a second that shows you not everybody agrees with what Netanyahu is doing.
It cynically and monstrously uses them as human shields, putting its commanders and command posts, its weapons and ammunition, within or beneath residential buildings, schools, mosques, hospitals. But civilians should not suffer the consequences for its inhumanity and its brutality.
So let me just go ahead and correct something there that he said. Eric, we can switch to the second page when you're ready. Something that he just said there about where they're located. Didn't Ro Khanna explain on CNN that they had this same issue with Osama bin Laden? And instead of doing these types of attacks where obviously civilians are going to be affected, they actually went in to those tunnels to get Osama bin Laden. You see, this is the problem. They all not even on the same page. Not even on the same page. And I want to show you just how much the American people see this. Now, this clip here from Case Study QB. If the election were held today, I can't promise you that he would get 5 votes from Arab Americans in the city of Dearborn. Dearborn is in Michigan. That is one of those swing states that Joe Biden does need to win. A couple of days ago, I spoke to you about the fact that they're having a difficult time getting Black voters in Milwaukee, Wisconsin to register to come out and support Joe Biden. That some of them said they're not going to vote at all. Another state, swing state, that Joe Biden will need in order to win. So I want to bring up this clip here from Case Study QB because the Democratic Party is in trouble. The Democratic Party is in trouble because of all of this. Like, the American people see it. They see it that the U.S. government is complicit, and this is happening under Democrat administration, not under Trump's administration. And a lot of people are calling it out. Let's bring this in here.
There is anger in the Muslim and Arab American community, and it's mounting over President Biden's stance toward the Israel-Hamas war. Many threatening him that their votes in 2024, well, they're at stake. Others already outright refusing to vote for him. And the warnings are coming from people also in Congress, like Rashida Tlaib, who's going so far as accusing Biden of supporting Palestinian genocide.
Mr. President, the American people are not with you on this one.
So we showed that on here before. I just want to fast forward. There we go.
Action has a price tag. And the decision you made and the path you took, the price tag is we will boycott you and we will campaign against you.
If the election was to be held today and President Biden is on the ballot and we have to go out and vote today, I can't promise you that he will get 5 votes from Arab Americans in the city of Dearborn.
Dearborn, the Michigan city, considered to be the center, of Arab America. So how could it be this for President Biden? Well,
let me pause here for a second. A lot of people may not realize this, but Michigan actually has a significant Arab population. And so if they don't come out to support Joe Biden, like many of them did in 2020, Joe Biden could lose Michigan. And Donald Trump right now is leading in almost every single swing state. Let's continue.
We'll take a look. The blue you're seeing on this map represents Muslim American voters. In addition to Michigan, many live in the key battleground states of places like Georgia and Pennsylvania and Arizona. I want to bring in Ahmed Ramadan, a former Biden administration advisor and executive coalitions director for the Michigan Democratic Party. Ahmed, thank you so much for coming. You just heard that person say they can't guarantee he would get even 5 votes for Biden in this area. First of all, the anger that's there, what is this? I know it's nuanced. I know it's not going to be just a singular issue, singular answer, but what is fueling the resentment and anger towards Biden specifically?
Dumbest question I've heard today. Dumbest question I heard. If you have to ask what's fueling the anger, I don't even think you should be sitting there as a commentator. Have you not been paying attention?
Thank you for having me. But so the Arab American community overwhelmingly in historic numbers voted for the Biden-Harris ticket in 2020, especially in Michigan and the demographics there, which helped him get to the White House and helped that ticket win. They felt they knew him on a personal level. So if you ask anybody from the Arab community, they tell you, we knew Joe, we know Joe, like because of his compassion, being the consoler in chief. And then this conflict that happened after October 7th is what shifted things drastically. They felt like they were either like backstabbed, they are not getting that same compassion or that the Israeli side is getting, and they're not being seen, which is an issue that they had with President Biden. And they just want to share their stories and they want to be heard. Like I had one of the community members share the story of after seeing every single day of this war, a 6-year-old child that is the only survivor in a 12-member family. And he was the one that had to identify the bodies of his whole family. So like these are the stories that really like are become personal to these to the community. So we have to make sure that we're also representing them.
So how does the administration course correct at this juncture? Because obviously, you know, Blinken, Secretary Lloyd Austin over there trying to, we understand from different sources, they may be behind the scenes suggesting a different approach in terms of a ceasefire otherwise for the humanitarian crisis that's spiraling out of control. But it sounds like there might be a more particularized route, not just for political reasons, but for the community you speak about to feel like they actually are seen by this president. How could they course correct at this point?
So,
second dumb question I've heard today. Like, I really do feel like, I don't know who this woman is, but when I saw this clip from Case Study QB, I'm like, has she been watching the news that she participates in or no? Oh, Laura Coates. Has she been watching this news? Does she understand what's happening? People are asking for and demanding a ceasefire. What do you mean? What can the Biden administration do to course correct?
There's been small steps in the right direction compared to when the conflict first began. There's like the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, released. She sent a letter to Secretary Blinken asking for the Palestinian Americans stuck in Gaza and the West Bank to bring them back home safely. That weren't able to leave. There was also Senator Durbin with 12 other senators asking for a ceasefire.
Let me pause there for a second, because brace yourself. You know who else just called for a ceasefire? Senator Maxine Waters. Or not senator, excuse me. Why did I call her senator? Maxine Waters is in the House. Anyway, Maxine Waters just called for a ceasefire. Bernie Sanders still will not, by the way.
The number one issue that people right now in the Arab community and the Palestinian community are struggling with is they want a ceasefire. They want to end the killing. You know, you have thousands of people, innocent civilians, dying the same way that they were in Israel on October 6th or 7th.
Well, you look at, I mean, even you mentioned obviously the president, but other members. I mean, you've got a Congressman, Ryan Zinke, who's pushing a bill that would literally expel Palestinians from the United States. Former President Trump, as you know, someone who was a proponent of what he wanted to be called the so-called Muslim ban, as opposed to what people actually saw it as. So if there is no support or waning support of President Biden on a ticket that's, what, 360 something days away now, then who?
So this is her trying to play dumb and pretend like the only people that are running for president is Joe Biden and Donald Trump, right? Let me let you hear what he says.
I don't want to say that there's no support for him yet. It's going to be harder to make the case for the community the longer this conflict drags out. We want to make sure that we're getting the Americans in Israel and the hostages out safely, but we also want to stop the innocent killing of the Palestinians, especially the children, the innocent people being bombarded in refugee camps. So we want to make sure that we're able to stop that bleeding. But also the bottom line is 2024 is a year away, like you said. So there is the honest truth is that the community isn't really thinking of the political side of things yet. They just want to end the mourning that they're going through. Every single day that this war or conflict drags on, they're mourning more, and they are not being able to think about how they can start regaining some of that trust with the president.
I mean, you see.
That's right. And that's a really good point there. A lot of people, I think in general, are not going to show up to vote. But it's bad when even Candace Owens agrees that this is wrong. I kid you not. I kid you not. This one blew me away. Candace Owens said, no government anywhere has a right to commit a genocide ever. There is no justification for genocide. I can't believe this even needs to be said or is even considered the least bit controversial to state. Like, this is wild. This is wild. She goes on to say, because Dave Rubin, let me show you what he says. So he responded and he said, well, as I'm sure you know, Candace, the Palestinian population has five times multiplied in a few decades. But thank you for taking a strong stance against Hamas stated genocide of Jews, which is in their charter. Now, this is Dave Rubin being an ass. How do you multiply a population? You have children. What have we said before about the people in Gaza? That the majority of the population in Gaza are kids. That's him just being an ass. And Candace Owens responded and said, in short, if the blanket statement that genocide is wrong upsets you in any way, then you need to check yourself. I said exactly what I meant, and I won't be backing down or apologizing or further clarifying the statement. So, now I want to show you something else that the protests are starting to cause. Now, see, now even CNN has to admit the U.S. warns Israel amid Gaza carnage, it doesn't have long before support erodes. Listen to this, honey. Listen to this. We're only going to do part of this article. You're just going to jump to this part right here. Behind the scenes, American officials also believe there is limited time for Israel to try to accomplish its stated objective of taking out Hamas and its current operation before uproar over the humanitarian suffering and civilian casualties and calls for a ceasefire reaches a tipping point. In fact, there is recognition within the administration that the moment may arrive quickly. Some of the president's close advisors believe that there are only weeks, not months, until rebuffing the pressure on the U.S. government to publicly call for a ceasefire becomes untenable. Sources told CNN. You guys see this? You see what's happening? And I'll just highlight this case right here. Biden Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, who departed Thursday for Israel with the message on protecting civilian lives, have all explicitly pressed the case in recent private conversations with the Israelis, telling them that eroding support will have dire strategic consequences for Israel Defense Forces operations against Hamas. There's more, because I told you not everyone in Israel agrees with what Netanyahu is doing. In fact, they try to come after him too. Protesters broke through a second roadblock on the way to the house on Gaza Street. That's where Netanyahu lives. My name is Bibi the Killer. This is what they're chanting. Look at this. And you can see the police officers as well trying to stop them. You see this? Pause. Pause in here so you can see. You see this gate? They're trying to come through the gate. So you see how they broke through. This is why I want to be very clear about this. Not everyone that is there agrees with what he is doing. Now, we always talk about these protests. I think it's important to tell you about what the next steps are, because this isn't over. This is not over. Answer Coalition has another step this week, November 9th. Global shutdown for Palestine. Let's get into it. Shut it down for Palestine Thursday, November 9th. You can register your action there. It says, let me jump here. Now is the time for mobilizations to grow in size, frequency, and focus, building a political climate that makes Israel's business of genocide unsustainable. How you can participate in this International Day of Action. Walk out from work and or school. Picket Israeli embassies and consulates. Picket against companies that profit from Israel's occupation of Palestine. Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, Elbit Systems. Elbit Systems is in Cambridge, Massachusetts, I believe. They're here. Host speakouts. Wear kufuyas. I hope I pronounced that correctly. If not, I'm sorry. Wear black armbands. And for those of you that have different organizations, you can register your organizations here, it says. I'll make sure I put this in the chat for you guys so you can have this to look at later on as well. But this is the next step. And I think this is so important. One thing I will say about Answer Coalition, they seem to be very organized. I think this is so important. I've been to a number of protests in my lifetime, and oftentimes we're like, okay, now what? What is the next step? Where they're telling you what the next step is. So now we can't say, okay, yeah, all those people showed up, but what's the next step? The next step is to shut it down. There are also companies that you can boycott as well that I think is really important for you guys to know. I'll make sure I get that list out, hopefully Tuesday night when I stream, about the companies that we're supposed to be boycotting that are actually continuing to support Israel, and this is funding them as well. So I know one of them is Starbucks, one of them is McDonald's, and I kind of feel like this. Screw McDonald's, screw Starbucks, because I'm gonna keep it real. McDonald's, your fries haven't been decent in years, boo. The last time I had a good McDonald's fry was like 2001, probably. Your fries, they're not hot and popping like they used to be when I was growing up. So you can take those, weak, nasty ass fries, and you can keep that. And to Starbucks, you can keep that nasty burnt coffee that you have, which wasn't even your original recipe. The recipe, you bought it off of George Howell coffee, for people who don't know that. You made his coffee so damn bad that George Howell had to come out of retirement and start his own coffee shop again. So George Howell coffee you can get right here in Massachusetts if you want some real coffee and what that coffee was supposed to taste like, instead of that burnt mess that Starbucks made. So Starbucks, you can keep your nasty burnt coffee, and McDonald's, you can keep those weak ass fries, okay? That's how I feel about that. But that's the next step. Let me go to some of the comments here. Thank you for the super chat, Ali Diaz. Hi, Sabby. Even major cities in the South had protests and marches with a pretty good turnout. The one I was at in Nashville had a few thousand people. That is awesome. I heard there were protests in Texas too. Thank you, Timbo. H2N3 be in Tampa, Florida, November 17th and 18th. Ravina says natives put on a big march in Minneapolis. They had 300,000 people, I think I read. I'm telling you guys, this is a moment in what Cornel West always says, a moment in a movement. You have to seize that moment. You really do. I look back on the George Floyd protests, and that was a moment in a movement. And I feel like we didn't really seize the moment, because I feel like BLM, corporate BLM, not the grassroots, corporate BLM decided to take the money, and instead of continuing that movement, Democratic Party infiltrated BLM. Next thing you know, it was all about let's just get Trump out, and all of a sudden we won't ever have to deal with police brutality. So when you have that moment, you really have to seize it. Thank you for Super Chat Black Thoughts. Do your research, aka follow what we tell you. Thank you for the Super Chat Cup of Joy. Sabby, this is by far the most uplifting report from anyone I've heard in months. The weapon ship blockade from my hometown, Oakland, gives me a sliver of peace. Wonder who of us are sleeping these days. Thank you. Thank you, R. Bailey. They got four. Oh, I think you mean money. They got money for wars, but can't feed the poor. Tupac Shakur. Yep. Thank you. Do all things with love. Medea Benjamin told Ralph Nader that Raskin, Pelosi, others are now hiding from constituents. Pelosi accused Code Pink of working for Russia and China. Boy, I tell you. Oh, dear. Thank you for this one as well. Churches for Middle East Peace said Israelis who show any sympathy for Palestinians are being doxxed and threatened with one-way tickets to Gaza. This is crazy, man. This is crazy. Like I said, there's more of us. There's more of us than there are of the empire of the politicians. There's more of us. Thank you, Roger, a freedman Arab / Palestinian American register indie. Thank you, Janice. YouTube not letting me make the comment I want. So just watch Jimmy Dore post about what is happening to the anti-Zionist people in Israel. And thank you, Roger. Netflix, BK, Disney Plus. Keep the whack ass coffee.